Welcome back, true believers. Elite Legend back in the Elite Zone, about to take a look at another WWE Elite Collection action figure. With an in-ring career spanning 3 decades and nearly 4 decades beyond that as a force in the creative aspects of professional wrestling, shaping the World Wrestling Federation and WWE as we know it. Today we take a look at the Collector's Edition Elite Collection, first time in the line, Pat Patterson action figure. Now this figure was a long time coming. We never got a Pat Patterson in the Jakks Classic Superstar line, but thankfully a year ago we ended up getting this Pat Patterson for our WWE collections. Here we see Patterson out of the package. He comes with soft goods, comes with a helmet, a pair of hands. There you see his ring attire underneath the soft goods. The shirt that this figure comes with is to commemorate Pat Patterson becoming the very first Intercontinental Champion in a historic tournament that occurred in Rio de Janeiro. While a decorated singles competitor, Pat Patterson often found himself achieving tag team glory with partners such as the superstar Billy Graham and the Soul Man Rocky Johnson. Pat Patterson most famously teamed up with Ray the Crippler Stevens to form the Blonde Bombers, whom were inducted into the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame in 2006. While Pat Patterson is most widely known as being the very first Intercontinental Champion, he is no stranger to championship gold prior to that. Leading up to his 1996 induction into the WWE Hall of Fame, Patterson held singles championships in San Francisco, Florida, as well as in the Pacific Northwest. And of course, we've already talked about his exploits in the tag team ranks. Once his time as Intercontinental Champion was over, Patterson made the natural progression to challenger to Bob Backlund for the WWF Heavyweight Championship. While he was unsuccessful in becoming the champion, he did take Backlund to the limit. While history will remember Pat Patterson as a flamboyant heel, he could be a fiery babyface, and he could be a ruthless brawler. I used to love hearing stories that my stepdad would tell me about Pat Patterson battling Pepper Gomez at the Cow Palace. We've all heard the stories of Pat Patterson and Sergeant Slaughter going head-to-head in the famous boot camp match at Madison Square Garden. Truly showing how diverse of a competitor Pat Patterson could be. Tag teams, brawling. Speaking of brawling, Pat Patterson is no stranger to going hardcore. By the mid-'80s, Pat Patterson's in-ring career was over, but he stayed as a focal point behind the camera. As an announcer, hosting an interview segment, and even as a referee at the very first WrestleMania, Pat Patterson kept himself relevant on screen. As Patterson became less of a presence on screen, he was, however, a force behind the scene as one of the members of Vince McMahon's inner circle of creative. Before the WWE was even called the WWE, and before creative was run by Hollywood writers and soap opera writers, the men responsible for the content that we saw on television every weekend were none other than Pat Patterson, Bruce Pritchard, aka Brother Love, and Vincent Kennedy McMahon. The road to WrestleMania starts at the Royal Rumble. There would be no Royal Rumble if it were not for Pat Patterson, who created the match concept. For those of you that are still watching, I want to give you a little bonus. Here we see the Collector's Edition Gerald Briscoe first time in the line figure. You can't have Patterson without Briscoe. So let's go ahead and crack Gerald Briscoe out of the package. Now, I know I mentioned earlier that Pat Patterson had faded off behind the scenes to be a executive in the World Wrestling Federation. However, by the Attitude Era, to keep things fresh and to make Vince McMahon more of a heel, Patterson teamed up with Gerald Briscoe of the legendary Briscoe brothers to form the Goons. Now, we still don't have a proper Attitude Era business attire Vince McMahon, so we're taking a look at a Titantron Live figure here. But Briscoe and Patterson were always running interference for Vincent Kennedy McMahon during his war with Stone Cold Steve Austin. Now, speaking of wars, the WWE was in the midst of a classic war with WCW and their top star, Hollywood Hulk Hogan. However, you could still hear the tunes of Real American at arenas that the WWE visited across the country because Briscoe and Patterson used that as their entrance theme. Briscoe and Patterson would wreak havoc in the World Wrestling Federation as the Goons. While they would take their fair share of beatings, they did have their moments of glory. After winning the Hardcore Championship, Gerald Briscoe and Patterson celebrated. The celebration would end with Patterson attacking Briscoe and becoming the Hardcore Champion himself. Pat Patterson, the Fink has already announced your name. You are headed to the main event. There is no denying that Pat Patterson is a pioneer in the world of professional wrestling, be it as an in-ring performer or a behind-the-scenes creative genius. Let me know in the comments below. What do you feel Pat Patterson's greatest contribution to the sport was? If you haven't already done so, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification bell so you could be alerted to more videos like this. Make sure you drop a like or a dislike. And until next time, make mine elite!